1. Nobody cares, and that's your freedom. Here's a truth that many find unsettling. No one cares about you as deeply as you do. It sounds harsh, even lonely, but it's one of the most liberating realizations you can have. We live in a world bursting at the seams with people clamoring for attention, posting, broadcasting, documenting every detail of their lives in hopes that someone out there will notice or validate them. But the reality is stark. People glance, maybe pause for a second, and then they move on. Their focus shifts, their own lives demand their attention, and whatever piece of you they just witnessed dissolves into the blur of 1,000 other fleeting impressions. It's not because people are cruel, it's simply human nature. We're all caught up in our own struggles, desires, and fears. We're worried about our jobs, our relationships, our insecurities. The average person doesn't lie awake at night pondering your failures, your triumphs, or your anxieties. Even those who love you deeply, your closest friends, your family, have their own mental and emotional bandwidth. They care, but not with the relentless minute-by-minute vigilance you imagine. And they shouldn't, because their primary responsibility, like yours, is their own lives. This might sound cold, but in truth, it's the soil from which your personal power grows. When you finally accept that nobody is obsessing over you, you're free to stop living for an audience that barely exists. You can drop the exhausting performance. You can stop bending yourself into shapes designed to win approval from people who aren't even paying attention. The need to be seen, liked, or praised becomes irrelevant once you understand how fleeting everyone's attention really is. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't advocate isolation or indifference, but they warned against staking your sense of self on the shifting opinions of the crowd. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who ruled over millions, recognized that while we love ourselves more than anyone else, we often value others' opinions above our own. It's a contradiction that keeps us shackled. The Stoics urged us to reverse this. Care more about your own conscience than about external applause. Think about how much time we lose worrying about what others might think. We hesitate to act, to speak, to create because some imaginary audience might judge us. We live in fear of embarrassment or rejection, crafting our choices to avoid even the faintest disapproval. Meanwhile, the truth is that the people whose judgment we fear probably won't remember what we did tomorrow, or even by the end of the day. That's why this truth is not a curse but a blessing. Nobody is watching you as closely as you think, which means you're free to live according to your own values, not theirs. You can pursue your goals without needing validation. You can work in silence, fail in private, and grow without an audience. You can build a life that makes sense to you, even if no one else ever notices or applauds it. The absence of the crowd is not the absence of meaning. In fact, it's where true meaning begins. When you're no longer performing for the world, you start acting in alignment with who you truly are. Your actions become expressions of principle, not performances for attention. Your progress is measured not in likes or comments, but in inner peace, integrity, and self-respect. Remember, nobody owes you attention. Nobody is obligated to understand your dreams or soothe your insecurities. That's your work, and while it's difficult, it's also the path to becoming unstoppable. Because when you stop expecting others to care, you finally start caring enough about yourself to do the work, face the pain, and grow into the person you're meant to be. Let this truth liberate you. Nobody's watching, so you're free to become whoever you decide to be. 2. The myth of the audience. No one's really watching. One of the biggest illusions we fall for is the belief that the world is watching our every move. We think there's an audience constantly evaluating us, scoring our choices, our appearances, our successes, and our failures. This imagined spotlight becomes a prison, chaining us to hesitation and fear. We hold back, afraid of looking foolish, We shrink our dreams, worried about judgment. We silence our voices, terrified of standing out. All because we think someone out there is scrutinizing our lives. But the truth is this: there is no grand audience, no panel of judges, no hidden spectators spending their nights obsessing over your decisions. People have their own worlds swirling with problems, desires, doubts, and responsibilities. Your colleagues, your old classmates, even your closest friends, they're not staying up late analyzing your career moves or your social media posts. They're thinking about their own bills, relationships, ambitions, and private fears. This realization might sting at first. After all, many of us grew up craving attention, praise, and recognition. We want to matter, to be seen, to be validated. Social media amplifies this craving, creating an illusion that likes and comments equal love and connection. We post carefully curated photos, thoughtful captions, or vulnerable confessions, secretly hoping someone will say, "I see you, you're important." But most people scroll, glance, and move on. Their attention is brief, their opinions fleeting. Even if they react, the impression usually dissolves as quickly as it appeared. Why then would we surrender our authenticity to win such temporary notice? Why mold ourselves into versions that might be more acceptable, more likable, more impressive, only to satisfy spectators who aren't even paying attention for long? The Stoics warned against this exact trap. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor who ruled an empire, observed the irony. We love ourselves more than anyone else, yet we care more about the opinions of strangers than our own inner judgment. It's a contradiction that breeds anxiety and robs us of peace. The more we live for the eyes of others, the less connected we become to who we truly are. Every time we pause before acting, wondering, what will they think of me? We fracture our alignment with our own principles. We drift away from our path, adjusting our direction to gain approval or avoid criticism. But that approval is fragile, unstable, and often imaginary. It's not that seeking connection is wrong. Humans are wired for community, but there's a difference between genuine connection and living as a perpetual performance. The former nurtures growth, the latter drains the soul. Here's the paradox: the less you try to be seen, the more authentic and magnetic you become. When you stop performing, your real presence emerges. People respect those who move with quiet conviction, who act according to principle rather than applause. Integrity speaks louder than any performance, and true influence is rooted not in spectacle but in substance. Living free from the myth of the audience doesn't mean you stop caring about people or isolate yourself. It means you shift your reason for action. Instead of asking, "How will this look?" you ask, "Is this right for me? Is this in line with my values?" You build not to be noticed but to be solid. You act not for praise but for peace. When you let go of the imaginary spectators, you begin to find meaning in places the crowd can't see. Your craft, your character, your small, consistent efforts. All of it gains significance because it's anchored in purpose, not performance. In the quiet absence of an audience, your values become clearer, your path becomes steadier, and your life becomes yours again. So here's a question to carry forward. If no one ever knew what you did, would you still choose to do it? Let that question be your compass, because the truth is the audience you fear isn't there. And when you release yourself from their gaze, you're finally free to walk your own path with courage, clarity, and genuine peace. 3. Entitlement destroys growth. Life owes you nothing. There's a dangerous belief that silently poisons growth. The idea that the world owes us something simply because we exist. We convince ourselves that because we've struggled, we deserve relief. Because we've tried, we deserve success. Because we've suffered, we deserve compassion. It feels fair, even just, but life doesn't operate on fairness. It runs on reality, and reality doesn't come with guarantees. The Stoics knew this well. They taught that life promises nothing, not happiness, not love, not justice, not comfort. That's not a cruel philosophy, it's a liberating one. Because when nothing is promised, every victory you earn matters more. Everything becomes precious precisely because it's not owed to you. Your efforts, your resilience, your discipline, they hold weight because they're not gifts handed out for simply showing up. Entitlement keeps people stuck. It breeds waiting instead of working. It whispers, "I deserve this," and makes every obstacle feel like an insult when we expect the world to deliver our dreams on a silver platter. Every silence feels like rejection. Every setback feels like betrayal. Our disappointment deepens into bitterness, and bitterness is a poison that slowly eats away at potential. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, said it perfectly. Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well. This isn't about giving up on your goals. It's about accepting reality as it comes and working within it. Resistance to reality only magnifies pain. When you demand that life be different from what it is, you create suffering on top of suffering. Growth begins the moment you drop the belief that life should be fair. The truth is stark, but freeing. Life owes you nothing. Not opportunities, not recognition, not understanding. Every day, every breath is something you were never promised. You could have been born in a different place under harsher conditions. You could have faced tragedies you never imagined. Yet here you are, breathing, capable, thinking. That's not nothing. That's everything. When you release entitlement, you stop waiting for circumstances to change and start changing yourself. You stop hoping someone else will open the door and start building your own. You stop blaming and start creating. You trade your wish for fairness for a pursuit of strength. Because the truth is, life's not about what you get, it's about who you become in the face of what you get. The Stoics measured success not by outcomes, but by character. They didn't believe that effort guaranteed results. They believed that the ultimate reward was becoming the kind of person who remains steady even when things don't go their way. The one who stays composed in uncertainty. Who keeps moving forward despite obstacles, who refuses to let setbacks define them. This is what it means to live without entitlement. It's not cold or cynical, it's empowering. It's about taking radical responsibility for your own journey. It's realizing that no one owes you understanding, help, or applause. You owe yourself the discipline to show up each day, the courage to keep going, and the integrity to stay true to your principles. Look in the mirror and remind yourself, your progress belongs to you, not to your parents, your partner, your past, or society. It's yours. That's a heavy burden and an incredible gift, because if it's up to you, it means it's within you. You are the builder. You are the spark. You are the reason change is possible. So write down the things you believe the world owes you, then cross them out. Replace them with things you will earn yourself. Let that list remind you every day that you're not waiting, you're working. Because entitlement waits, but ownership moves, and movement is where transformation takes root. When you stop expecting life to hand you what you haven't earned, you unlock your true power. You become the person who doesn't wait for permission but creates the path forward. That's the essence of Stoic strength. Not fantasy, but fierce, deliberate self-reliance. 4. Radical ownership of your mind, the last frontier of freedom. In a world obsessed with possessions, appearances, and external validation, the Stoics pointed to a simple, unshakable truth. The only thing you truly own is your mind. Not your job, not your bank account, not your reputation, just your mind. It's the final frontier of freedom, the territory no one can invade unless you allow it. Yet so many people have surrendered it without even realizing it. Look around. People guard their smartphones more fiercely than they guard their thoughts. They spend hours curating their social media profiles, polishing their image for public consumption, while letting their inner world run unchecked. They pour energy into how they look on the outside, yet barely invest in the architecture of their own minds. They hand over their mental space to trends, gossip, fear, and endless distractions, unaware of how much sovereignty they're giving up with every careless scroll. But here's the Stoic insight. Your mind is where your true power lives. It's the command center for your choices, your reactions, your perspective. It's where discipline is born, where courage is forged, and where resilience is tested. If you neglect this territory, you become vulnerable to every storm that blows through your life. You're tossed around by circumstances, opinions, and emotions you never chose to host. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It's a simple sentence, but a lifetime's work. Because while you can't control the chaos outside, you can always control the captain inside. You decide how to interpret events. You choose how to respond. You determine what thoughts are allowed to linger and what beliefs deserve to be uprooted. Yet most people rent out their inner world to anything loud or shiny. News headlines, viral posts, passing insults, they all march in and occupy precious mental space, leaving behind confusion, anxiety, and a scattered focus. The Stoic refuses to live like this. Instead, they build a fortress around their mind. Not a fortress that isolates them from life, but one that shields them from noise, panic, and manipulation. Radical ownership of your mind means becoming the architect of your inner world. It means questioning every belief. Is this truly mine, or was it planted there by someone else, by society, by childhood wounds, by fear? It means sitting with uncomfortable thoughts instead of distracting yourself. It means listening to the quiet voice beneath the noise, the voice that tells you who you really are and what you value. This ownership demands daily work. You can't tidy your mind once and call it done. It's like sweeping a floor. It will gather dust again and again. It requires honest self-examination, journaling your thoughts, reflecting on your reactions, noticing which emotions hijack you and why. It's not glamorous. No one applauds the hours you spend wrestling your own mind into clarity, but that's where true strength grows. Many people fear this silence. It's easier to stay busy, keep scrolling, keep consuming. But the Stoics remind us clarity only comes in stillness. Direction only emerges when you pause to listen. Discomfort is often a sign that something important is waiting to be addressed. You can't build inner peace on a foundation you've never examined. Radical ownership also means accepting that your thoughts are your responsibility. You may not control what pops into your head, but you control what you feed, what you believe, and what you act upon. No one else is thinking your thoughts. No one else can govern your focus. That's your sacred duty. So begin each day by claiming your mental territory. Spend 10 minutes in silence. No music, no phone, no conversation. Just you and your thoughts. Observe them like a curious friend. Notice the patterns. Identify the thoughts that help you and the ones that sabotage you. Strengthen the helpful ones. Challenge and replace the harmful ones. Over time, you'll discover your mind growing clearer, calmer, and stronger. Because when you own your mind, you own your life. The world may stay chaotic. People may stay unpredictable. But you'll move through it all with an anchored sense of self, a fortress built from reason, discipline, and calm. That's the freedom the Stoics cherished, the sovereignty that no one can take from you unless you surrender it. 5. The discipline of self-focus, protecting your greatest resource. In a world where attention has become currency, wasting it on things that don't serve you is like pouring gold down the drain. Everywhere you turn, someone or something is demanding a slice of your focus, notifications, headlines, social media feeds, other people's drama. And each time you give in, you're investing energy into lives, stories, and opinions that aren't yours. The Stoics understood that focus is a finite resource. They taught that to live wisely, you must guard it with discipline. Not because you should shut out the world entirely, but because your mind cannot grow strong if it's constantly scattered. You cannot build a sturdy character if you're endlessly pulled into the noise of others. One of life's greatest traps is the lure of comparison. You see someone else achieving something and a tiny voice whispers, "Why not you?" You watch people's curated highlights on social media and you start measuring your worth against illusions. But as the Stoics would remind you, comparison steals more than joy. It steals your direction. Every moment you spend staring at someone else's path is a moment you're not walking your own. Every ounce of energy poured into envy is energy stolen from your growth. Admiring another's success doesn't train your skills. Watching someone else lift weights won't build your muscles. You cannot outsource your progress. You must do your own work. The discipline of self-focus is not selfish. It's strategic. It's the choice to direct your attention inward rather than outward. Instead of asking, "How do I measure up to others?" you ask, "Am I better than I was yesterday? Am I clearer in my thinking? Am I moving with purpose?" These are the questions that keep you anchored to your own path. The modern world seduces us to believe we're missing out unless we're constantly plugged into the lives of others. But the Stoics would tell you, true growth is quiet. It happens in the invisible hours when no one is watching. It happens when you choose discipline over distraction, principles over popularity. Self-focus means becoming your own standard, not because you're perfect, but because your journey is unique. It means holding yourself accountable to your own values and measuring progress by your own metrics. Are you more patient today than last year? Are you less reactive? Are your decisions more deliberate? These small changes might never make it to a social media post, but they're the building blocks of real transformation. Discipline isn't about a single heroic effort. It's about repetition. It's about choosing the essential thing over and over, especially when it's boring, invisible, or inconvenient. The Stoic path demands showing up when motivation fades. Keeping promises to yourself when no one will ever know if you break them. Acting from values, not from fleeting moods. This commitment to self-focus is what builds inner strength. When chaos strikes, as it always will, you have a solid foundation. You're not dependent on external applause. You're not thrown off course by shifting opinions. You have an internal compass pointing you true north. Practicing self-focus might mean blocking off an hour each day to disconnect from the digital world. It might mean journaling your progress rather than broadcasting it. It might mean refusing to engage in gossip or petty conflicts. It's small decisions, repeated daily, that separate those who drift from those who direct. The world tells you that success is about being seen. The Stoics tell you it's about being solid. The world urges you to shout your accomplishments. The Stoics urge you to cultivate quiet confidence. Because when you know who you are and where you're going, you don't need the crowd to confirm it. So choose the discipline of self-focus. Not as an escape from the world, but as the way to contribute to it meaningfully. Because a person who is anchored, focused, and principled is a person who changes the world, not through noise, but through quiet, steadfast action. 6. From reaction to response. The power of the space in between. Most people drift through life like live wires, constantly triggered by the world around them. A harsh word, a dismissive look, a bad headline, one missed text, and suddenly their entire day unravels. Their emotions spike, their thoughts spiral, and they lash out or retreat without ever pausing to examine what's really happening. This is the state of reaction. instant, automatic, and often destructive. It's like living at the mercy of every breeze, tossed around by external events you cannot control. The Stoics saw this as a form of slavery, a life where your emotions are the master and your reason is bound and gagged in the corner. But there's another way, a way the Stoics practiced relentlessly. Response. To respond rather than react is to reclaim your throne. It's to remember that no matter how chaotic life becomes, you still own the space between what happens and what you choose to do next. And in that space lies your freedom. Viktor Frankl, though not a Stoic, captured this timeless truth when he wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." The Stoics would have nodded in agreement, because that space, however brief, is where sovereignty begins. Reactivity is easy. It's driven by the oldest parts of our brain: fight, flight, freeze. It feels natural because it's fast, primal, and requires no effort. But it also hijacks our lives. It makes us say things we regret. It pushes us into decisions we wouldn't make if we were calm. It costs us relationships, opportunities, and inner peace. Responding, by contrast, is deliberate. It requires you to step back, breathe, and observe. It's the discipline of not letting your first feeling dictate your first action. The Stoic doesn't deny emotions. He simply refuses to be ruled by them. He sees anger rise and chooses not to speak harshly. He feels fear and decides to act courageously anyway. He experiences disappointment but responds with resilience instead of despair. This is not cold indifference. It's supreme strength. It's the refusal to surrender your character to fleeting circumstances. It's the practice of filtering events through your values rather than your wounds. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, wrote, "A wise man is content with himself, not because he does not wish for more, but because he has trained himself not to be shaken by less." That's the heart of response. You don't stop feeling. You simply learn that feelings don't automatically deserve obedience. Moving from reaction to response is the difference between being a puppet pulled by strings and being the one who holds the strings. It's the shift from living as a product of your environment to becoming a producer of your behavior. Instead of echoing chaos, you start broadcasting clarity. When you live reactively, you're like a leaf in the wind. When you live responsively, you're like a rooted tree. The winds still blow, the storms still rage, but your center holds. The Stoic cultivates this strength through small, daily choices. When provoked, he counts to 10 before speaking. When feeling the urge to retaliate, he pauses to ask, "What is the most honorable way to handle this?" When sadness creeps in, he reflects rather than ruminates. Each time he chooses response over reaction, he chisels a stronger character. This discipline doesn't mean suppressing emotion or becoming robotic. It means using emotion as information, not as instruction. You can feel angry without letting anger write your emails. You can feel afraid without letting fear decide your path. You can feel hurt without launching a counterattack. Practicing response builds an inner stillness the world cannot shake. It gives you the power to navigate chaos without becoming chaotic yourself. It earns respect, not just from others, but from the person in the mirror. So next time something rattles you, a snide comment, a moment of bad news, a sudden wave of anxiety, pause, breathe. Step into that space between stimulus and response. Ask yourself, what action right now would reflect the person I want to become? Then act from reason, not reflex, because in that choice lies your true power. And that's how the Stoic remains free, even in a world determined to pull him apart. 7. Letting go of the need to be understood, freedom beyond validation. There's a deep ache inside many of us, a yearning to be understood. We want people to see who we truly are, to grasp our intentions, our struggles, our dreams. We crave validation, hoping someone will say, "I get you, I see you." And while connection is a beautiful part of being human, the Stoics warned that the constant need to be understood can become a prison. The harsh truth is this: not everyone will understand you. Some people won't understand your silence. Others won't grasp why you make certain choices, why you hold certain values, or why you've chosen a different path, and that's okay. The path to inner peace begins when you accept that being misunderstood is not a failure. It's simply reality. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, advised himself not to waste time worrying about what others think unless it truly affects the common good. His message was clear. Don't spend your life trying to explain yourself to those who are neither listening deeply nor capable of understanding you fully. It's a distraction from the real work of life, knowing and refining yourself. Consider how much mental and emotional energy goes into crafting explanations, justifications, and clarifications. How often do we edit our words, soften our truths, or hide our passions simply to avoid being misread? How many dreams die quietly because we fear someone else won't get it? This is the silent tax of needing to be understood. The Stoics would say, your energy is precious. Spend it building your character, not explaining it. Spend it developing your craft, not defending it. Not everyone deserves front-row seats to your internal world. Some will misinterpret your growth as arrogance, your boundaries as coldness, your discipline as distance. That's not your burden to carry. Letting go of the need to be understood doesn't mean becoming indifferent or shutting people out. It means shifting your focus. Instead of asking, "Do they see me?" you ask, "Am I being true to myself?" Instead of craving external validation, you anchor yourself in your own values. You replace the fragile comfort of approval with the solid ground of self-respect. This shift is profoundly liberating. You realize you don't owe everyone an explanation. You're not required to justify your choices to people who don't share your vision or values. Your worth doesn't rise or fall based on someone else's comprehension of your path. You are allowed to evolve in silence. You're allowed to change without issuing press releases about why. The Stoics teach that real strength is quiet. It's not about convincing the world who you are. It's about knowing it yourself. It's about building an inner confidence so strong that misunderstanding no longer rattles you. Because the people who truly matter, the ones who deserve your vulnerability, will take the time to understand. And even if they don't, you'll remain centered. Consider this: how much lighter would your life feel if you stopped over-explaining? What doors might open if you freed yourself from the need to be constantly validated? When you let go of that need, you gain the power to move with greater focus and peace. Here's a practice inspired by Stoic wisdom. Identify 3 areas of your life where you've been explaining yourself too much. Maybe it's your career choices, your lifestyle, or your personal boundaries. For each one, write a single sentence of clarity for yourself. Post those sentences somewhere private. Let them serve as reminders that your clarity matters more than anyone else's approval. Because at the end of the day, it's not the crowd's understanding that shapes your life. It's your own. The world may never fully get you, but that's irrelevant if you're living in alignment with your highest values. True peace comes not from being understood, but from understanding yourself so deeply that you no longer require outside permission to be who you are. So release the weight of trying to be perfectly seen. Let your actions speak. Let your integrity shine quietly. And remember, you are not here to fit someone else's frame. You are here to build your own. 8. Embrace the isolation of excellence, the quiet path to greatness. People love to say it's lonely at the top, as though it's a warning against chasing big dreams. But the Stoics would tell you, of course it's lonely, because most people aren't willing to pay the price that excellence demands. True mastery, genuine growth, and the pursuit of virtue often require solitude. not because you're better than others, but because the work you must do is deeply personal and often invisible. Excellence is not crowded because it's not popular. It's not loud because it doesn't need an audience. The path to becoming exceptional is quiet, demanding, and frequently misunderstood. Most people shy away from this path because it means stepping away from comfort, social approval, and the buzz of constant company. It means sitting in silence, facing your own thoughts, your weaknesses, your fears. Epictetus, who began life as a slave and rose to become a philosopher and teacher, understood this better than most. He endured hardship, obscurity, and periods of profound isolation. And yet he found in solitude the space to forge his character and clarify his philosophy. He famously said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Because growth often looks strange to those who aren't on the same path. Isolation is not emptiness, it's elevation. When you choose solitude intentionally, it becomes a forge. Your mind becomes sharper, your values clearer, your purpose more defined. In solitude, you can hear your true thoughts without the distortion of outside noise. You can examine your actions and motives without the pressure to perform. You can build the kind of inner sturdiness that no crowd can give you. We live in a world that worships visibility. People want their journeys documented, their progress applauded, their identities validated by strangers online, but greatness has always grown in silence. Roots grow strongest underground, unseen. The most powerful character traits, discipline, resilience, courage, are cultivated in the hours when no one is watching. Choosing the path of excellence means accepting that not everyone will understand you. Some people will misinterpret your discipline as arrogance, your focus as coldness, your distance as indifference. That's a price you pay for choosing a path that few dare to walk. The Stoics would remind you your goal is not to be popular but to be principled, not to fit in but to become formidable. This doesn't mean becoming a hermit. Stoicism doesn't advocate withdrawing from life or relationships. It means that even amid connections you hold sacred a space for solitude, a place where you retreat to reflect, recalibrate, and strengthen your inner core. Without this time alone, your thoughts remain scattered, your purpose diluted. Consider the moments when you've made your biggest leaps forward. Chances are they didn't happen in a crowd. They happened in the quiet, in moments of reading, writing, training, thinking. The world may never see those hours, but they are the true birthplace of progress. Here's a Stoic practice to embrace this principle. Set aside one day each week for intentional solitude. Turn off notifications. Speak only when necessary. Spend the time reflecting on your values, your habits, and your direction. Journal your thoughts. Adjust your course. Use that silence to sharpen your vision. Because when you grow comfortable in solitude, you become unshakable. You discover that your peace doesn't depend on being surrounded by people or noise. Your worth doesn't rely on being visible or understood. Your strength comes from the work you do in quiet, the discipline you build when no one is watching, the character you forge when no one is clapping. So don't fear the isolation of excellence. Embrace it. Let it become your forge. Let it be the place where your truest self is crafted. Because in a world chasing attention, the person willing to grow in silence becomes rare and unstoppable. 9. The armor of consistency, how daily discipline builds invincible strength. In a world obsessed with quick wins, hacks, and shortcuts, the Stoics stood firm in a different belief. Consistency is the ultimate superpower. It's not talent, luck, or sudden bursts of inspiration that shape a life. It's what you do over and over, especially when no one is watching. Most people look for secrets to success. They want a single revolutionary idea to transform their lives overnight. But the Stoics knew that transformation isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet, repetitive, and built through simple, deliberate actions. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journals every day, not for applause but to align himself with wisdom. Seneca wrote letters not for fame but for refinement. Epictetus repeated teachings not for novelty but for mastery. They understood something crucial. Your mind, like your body, is sculpted by repetition. You do not become disciplined merely by thinking about discipline. You become disciplined by performing the same meaningful actions again and again until they become a part of who you are. Consistency is often misunderstood as boring. It lacks glamour. It doesn't glitter on social media. But it's the quiet rhythm beneath every great achievement. It's what turns intentions into results, dreams into reality, and character into something unbreakable. Consider this. You don't need new routines as much as you need consistent commitment to the routines you already know matter. Most people chase novelty because sticking to the same discipline day after day feels tedious. But the Stoic sees repetition as sacred. Each repeated act is another brick in the fortress of self-mastery. The world might praise talent and brilliance, but talent without consistency is wasted potential. Passion without discipline burns out quickly. Consistency doesn't rely on how you feel, it relies on what you've decided. It's about showing up, even when enthusiasm fades. It's about keeping your promises to yourself, especially when the effort is invisible. When life is easy, anyone can be disciplined. The real test comes on the hard days, when you're tired, discouraged, or tempted to quit. That's when consistency becomes armor. It's the habit that carries you forward when your emotions try to pull you off course. It's the structure that holds you together when chaos strikes. Consistency isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. Missing a day isn't failure, but giving up because you missed a day is. The Stoic knows that progress is cumulative. Each small step builds momentum. Each repetition strengthens resolve. It's not glamorous, but it's how real transformation happens. Ask yourself, what would your life look like if you simply did what you know you should do every day without negotiation? The answer is likely staggering, because consistency compounds over time. Small efforts, repeated consistently, produce results that seem impossible in the beginning. Here's a simple Stoic practice. Choose one small action that supports your mental, physical, or spiritual strength. Commit to doing it daily, no matter what. Track it. Don't let feelings decide whether you show up. Let your character decide. Over time, the act itself becomes less important than the discipline behind it, and that discipline shapes who you are. Think of consistency as armor. It shields you from your own excuses. It protects you from the storms of life. When the world grows chaotic, your habits remain steady. When motivation disappears, your routine carries you forward. Consistency turns chaos into clarity, randomness into rhythm, and uncertainty into confidence. The Stoic path is not paved with fireworks, it's paved with footprints, day after day, step after step. Each step might feel small, even invisible. But over time, those steps carve out a path of strength, integrity, and inner peace. So while the world searches for secrets, choose the timeless power of consistency. Show up for yourself, especially on the days when it's hardest. Because in those quiet, unseen moments, you're building something no one can take away. The quiet confidence of a person who keeps moving forward no matter what. Chapter 10. Silence as Strength. The quiet power in a noisy world. In a world addicted to noise, silence can feel like rebellion. We live in an era where speaking up, broadcasting thoughts, and sharing every detail of our lives is celebrated as authenticity. But the Stoics would remind us that true strength often speaks in whispers or chooses not to speak at all. Silence isn't emptiness, it's presence. It's the deliberate choice to hold your tongue when words would add no value. It's the discipline of letting the moment settle before rushing to react. It's the wisdom of knowing that not everything requires your comment, your opinion, or your defense. Seneca wrote, "Speech is the mirror of the mind. As a man speaks, so is he." But the wise person also knows that silence reflects character just as powerfully. Silence can reveal control, patience, and the refusal to be provoked by every external force. It's not about retreating from life, it's about commanding yourself within it. Think about how often we feel compelled to respond. Someone insults us and we want to retaliate. Someone challenges our beliefs and we feel we must convince them. Someone misunderstands us and we rush to explain. Yet the Stoic sees the value in restraint. Not every slight deserves a reaction. Not every opinion deserves a counterargument. Sometimes the highest form of power is to remain unmoved. In silence, you can hear your real thoughts without interruption. You can examine your motives. You can separate what truly matters from what's just noise. It's in stillness that clarity is reborn. You gain the chance to ask, is this worth my energy? Does this deserve my words? The world today equates speaking out with power. But power is not volume. It's control. The loudest person in the room is often the least certain. The one who can hold their tongue and wait, who doesn't need to prove themselves constantly, is usually the one with genuine confidence. Silence is also protection. It guards you from saying words you can't take back. It shields your emotions while you process what's happening. It creates space between stimulus and response, the very space the Stoics believed was sacred for reason and virtue to emerge. Consider the most powerful people you know. Often they're not those who talk the most, but those who speak precisely, intentionally, and only when necessary. Their words carry weight because they are rare and measured. Their silence is never awkward. It's authoritative. Practicing silence doesn't mean you suppress your thoughts. It means you choose the right time and place for them. It means speaking only when it improves upon the quiet. It means learning that influence doesn't always require words. Sometimes presence alone transforms a room more than any speech ever could. Here's a practical Stoic exercise. Spend 1 intentional hour each day in silence. No speaking, no texting, no posting, no reacting. Simply observe. Listen. Let your thoughts come and go without grabbing at them. This small practice strengthens your ability to pause in moments of pressure and choose your words or your silence with intention. When you embrace silence, you discover that you're not invisible. You're powerful. You're discerning. You're no longer compelled to prove, explain, or defend yourself at every turn. You cultivate an aura of presence that others instinctively respect. Because silence is not absence, it's substance. It's a statement that you're anchored enough not to be pulled into every conversation or conflict. It's a declaration that you value depth over noise, principle over performance. So in this loud, restless world, choose silence as your ally. Let it sharpen your clarity. Let it guard your peace. Let it speak for you when words fall short, because sometimes the strongest voice is the one that knows when not to speak. 11. The quiet power of becoming. Progress without performance. In our modern world, everyone seems to be chasing visibility. People announce their plans, broadcast their goals, and share every milestone as though the mere act of public declaration will bring them closer to success. But the Stoics knew a different truth. True growth happens quietly. Becoming is a private journey, not a public performance. The Stoic doesn't chase attention. He builds substance. He doesn't seek applause because he understands that what is built for the crowd often dies when the crowd moves on. The Stoic's focus is not on appearing wise, but on becoming wise. Not on looking strong, but on cultivating real strength. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly when he wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." It's simple, yet profound. Stop talking about your plans. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Start becoming the person you say you want to be, quietly, steadily, without needing an audience. Becoming is daily work. It's showing up even when you're tired. It's practicing discipline when no one sees. It's choosing integrity when shortcuts tempt you. It's reading, reflecting, training, and correcting yourself over and over. It's invisible victories, the kind that don't earn applause but build unshakable character. The Stoics understood that the world might never notice your private victories. You may never get a trophy for the battles you fight inside your own mind. There's no audience for the moment you choose to hold your tongue instead of lashing out, or for the nights you stay up wrestling with your own weaknesses. Yet these are the moments where true progress happens. Many people chase recognition because they believe external validation will finally make them feel enough. But the Stoics teach that your worth doesn't rise because someone notices you. It rises because you notice yourself changing, because you see the distance between who you were and who you are becoming. And you keep closing that gap. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to stop performing and start transforming. Stop asking, "Will people see this?" and start asking, "Will this make me better?" Stop measuring your life by the reactions of others and measure it by your own quiet sense of alignment. The world may never clap for you. It may never understand the depth of your efforts, and that's perfectly fine, because the real prize is not applause. It's knowing that you stayed true to yourself, that you honored your principles, kept your word, and grew stronger in ways no one can ever take away. Here's a simple Stoic practice. Each night, ask yourself, what did I become today? Not what you achieved, not what others said about you, but who you became. Did you grow calmer, wiser, more resilient? Did you move closer to the person you aspire to be? Let this question guide your days, because becoming is a process, not a finish line. This quiet work will eventually shine through in everything you do. You'll speak less but with more weight. You'll seek less attention and deliver more substance. You'll chase less and contribute more. One day, without fanfare, you'll realize you've become someone your past self would look up to. Someone forged not by noise but by character. Not built on status but on substance. The Stoics remind us nobody cares as much as you think. And that's exactly why you must care for yourself. Not in a selfish way, but in a way that honors your potential. The world may not be watching, but you are. And that's enough. So choose the quiet path of becoming. Keep building yourself day by day without waiting for permission or praise. Let your life speak not through noise, but through the powerful evidence of who you've become.